A woman secretly loves her billionaire business partner, but he never notices her until another woman walks into their lives. As hearts collide and secrets are revealed, friendships are tested and love takes unexpected turns. Will silent love survive, or will she lose everything to the couple she helped bring together? The winter morning unfolded slowly over Austin, Texas, spreading a pale gold glow across the skyline. The air carried that familiar December chill, soft, crisp, and dry, the kind that brushed against the skin but never threatened snow. It was the kind of morning that usually comforted Laura Anderson, because winter always felt honest to her. Quiet, unhurried, almost like a mirror of the emotions she kept hidden. At exactly 7:12 a.m., she walked into the glass entrance of Anderson and Hayes Innovations, the tech investment agency she co-managed with Michael Hayes. Her heels clicked lightly on the polished floor as she passed the receptionist, offering her a gentle smile. She always arrived before everyone else, even Michael on most days, because the silence of the office gave her time to breathe and time to prepare for the reality she lived in daily. The reality of loving a man who didn't know. Her heart tightened the moment she stepped into the shared executive office. His desk sat across from hers, immaculate as always. His neatly arranged files, the faint scent of cedarwood cologne still lingering from the night before, the coffee mug he left slightly off-center. All of it reminded her that Michael was a part of her everyday life but never truly hers. She placed her bag down, inhaled deeply, and whispered a short prayer to hold herself together. Today would be like every other day, laughing at his jokes, giving him ideas, supporting him during long meetings, all the while pretending her heart didn't skip each time he said her name. At 7:29 a.m., the familiar sound of his footsteps echoed in the hallway. She didn't need to turn. She recognized his rhythm, confident, smooth, unhurried. When he opened the door, the morning light followed him in, catching the sharp lines of his jaw and the small smile that appeared whenever he saw her. "Morning, partner," Michael said warmly as he hung his coat. "You beat me again." Laura smiled, calm and steady, though her heart lifted just hearing his voice. "You know I always do." He chuckled. "One day I'll surprise you." "You surprise me every day," she thought. "Just not in the ways I wish." Michael moved around the office with an easy confidence, the kind that made people believe in him, trust him, follow him. At 35, he was every bit the visionary billionaire people admired, handsome, ambitious, grounded. Yet despite his success, he remained humble enough to roll up his sleeves and work like everyone else. Everyone adored him, and Laura loved him silently. She watched him settle at his desk and start on a stack of proposals. A stray lock of his dark hair fell forward as he concentrated, and she found herself smiling unconsciously. He looked up suddenly, catching her expression. "What's funny?" he asked. Laura quickly shook her head. "Nothing. Just thinking." "About?" He raised a brow in playful curiosity. "About you." "Work," she lied softly. He accepted the answer, nodding. "Speaking of work, we should finalize our pitch for the Houston investors. We need to leave early tomorrow." Laura nodded. They'd traveled together many times for meetings, but every trip felt like another test of patience for her heart. Sharing restaurants, long drives, quiet hotel corridors, all while pretending she wasn't in love with him. Michael tapped his pen thoughtfully. "Actually, before work gets crazy, I need to ask you something." Laura blinked. "Okay, it's about your friend, Vera, right?" Her stomach tightened. "Yes. What about her? Is her birthday party still happening this Saturday? She mentioned inviting me, but I wasn't sure if she meant it." Laura froze for less than a second, but it was enough to sting. "Yeah, it's still happening," she said gently. Michael smiled, bright, boyish, almost excited. "Great. I think I'll go." And just like that, a single breath shattered something inside her. For the rest of the morning, Laura worked quietly, hiding the storm that brewed beneath her steady expression. Michael, oblivious to the shift in her atmosphere, talked excitedly about the Houston pitch, new clients, and weekend plans. Plans that now included attending Vera's birthday. Deep down, Laura knew exactly what could happen if Michael met Vera again. People were drawn to Vera's energy, her warmth, her charm. The kind of charm that came from surviving life rather than being sheltered by it. She was stunning, magnetic, and fiercely confident even with her complicated past. Compared to Vera's boldness, Laura felt small. Too gentle. Too quiet. Too cautious. Her silence had been her biggest enemy for years. By the time noon approached, Laura excused herself. "I'm grabbing coffee downstairs. You want anything?" "Yes," he said without looking up. "That cinnamon one you always get me." She smiled faintly. Of course he remembered. "Got it." As she walked down to the cafe on the first floor, her thoughts spiraled. She had been in love with Michael for over 3 years. Since the first winter day he interviewed her for a partnership position. He had been charming, patient, asking her questions like he truly wanted to understand her. That day, she left the room knowing she had just met someone who would matter. And he did. More than she expected. But never once did she confess. Not even once. She believed gestures were enough. She believed loyalty spoke loudly. She believed he would eventually just see it. But he never did. When she returned to the office, Michael was leaning against her desk, smiling at his phone. "You look amused," she noted, handing him his coffee. "I just got a text from Vera," he said without hesitation. "She asked if we're both still coming Saturday." Laura's heartbeat stumbled. "Oh, that's nice of her. She seems fun," Michael added. "Like someone with good energy." Laura swallowed. "She is. Vera's unforgettable." Michael chuckled. "I like that." The conversation ended, but the ache lingered. Laura forced herself to stay composed. She had no claim over him. No right to be jealous. After all, she had chosen silence every time her heart begged to speak. The workday went on. The sun slowly sank lower, casting long amber streaks across the office. Winter evenings came early in Texas, and by 5 p.m., the hallway lights glowed warmly. At 5:12 p.m., Michael finally shut his laptop. "You ready to call it a day?" he asked. Laura nodded. "Yeah, let me just shut down." As they walked toward the elevator, Michael casually added, "By the way, what should I get Vera as a birthday gift?" Laura forced a soft smile. "Something simple. She appreciates thoughtful things." "Like what?" "You could get her a scented candle set. Or a book she mentioned recently. Or maybe I should ask you to help me decide," he said, nudging her gently. "You know her better." "Yes, I know her better. Better than anyone. Better than you realize." "We'll think about it," she murmured. When the elevator opened, they stepped inside. The closing doors reflected their silhouettes, their closeness, their quiet bond, the silent longing she hid every day. The elevator ride down was calm, quiet. At the lobby, they walked together toward the parking garage. Their footsteps echoed softly in the cold evening air. "Drive safe, Laura," Michael said as they reached their cars. "You too." He waved and got into his black Mercedes. She watched him drive off before letting her shoulders sag. Alone, she whispered, "Why didn't I ever tell you?" The next morning, they left for Houston. The 2-hour drive was filled with comfortable conversation, the kind that made Laura feel both close to him and painfully distant at the same time. When they arrived at the investors' meeting, they nailed the pitch flawlessly. Everything felt perfectly synchronized, as always, until a thought struck Laura. Tomorrow was Vera's birthday, and Michael seemed more excited about that than the successful pitch. That evening, Laura sat alone in her hotel room, staring at her reflection in the tall mirror beside the window. Soft winter light spilled in from the cityscape outside. For the first time, she let herself admit the truth. Michael was slipping away from the world she dreamed of, and she had no idea how to stop it. When her phone buzzed, she saw a message from Vera. "Vera, hey babe. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. It's been forever. Please dress cute. I'm putting you beside me on the main table." Laura smiled sadly. "Laura, I will. Can't wait to see you too." Vera had no idea Laura was drowning inside, and she couldn't blame her. Vera had always known Laura as the strong one. Laura turned off her phone, lay back on the bed, and exhaled shakily. Tomorrow could change everything. She felt it. She feared it. But she had no power to stop it. Saturday arrived with a crisp winter breeze sweeping through Houston. The skies were clear, the air cool but gentle, and sunlight glazed the city in soft gold. It was the kind of day that felt light, yet Laura's chest felt anything but. She stood in front of the hotel mirror, adjusting the simple emerald green dress she had chosen, a color Vera always said suited her. Her hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders, and her makeup was light but elegant. She stared at her reflection, wishing she felt as composed as she looked. A knock sounded on her door. "Laura!" Michael's voice called. She steadied herself. "Come in." He entered, wearing a fitted navy blue shirt and black slacks. The sight of him stole her breath for a moment. He looked effortlessly handsome, his hair neatly trimmed, his sleeves rolled slightly upward, a casual confidence that made him seem even more striking. "Wow," he said with a slow smile. "You look incredible." Laura's heart thudded softly. "Thank you. You look great too." He chuckled lightly. "I try." She grabbed her purse, hiding her nerves. "Ready." "More than ready," he said, too eagerly, too brightly. A clue Laura wished she hadn't noticed. The drive to Vera's house was filled with upbeat music and easy conversation. But beneath Laura's responses was an ache so deep she felt it in her bones. Michael hummed along to a song, tapping lightly on the steering wheel, unaware of the emotional battle taking place inches from him. When they pulled up to Vera's place, a warm, stylish townhouse painted a soft cream color, Laura felt her heartbeat quicken. Cars were already lining the street. Laughter carried out from the open door. "Looks lively," Michael said with a grin. "Yes," Laura whispered. He didn't catch the tremor in her voice. They walked toward the entrance together. Vera's friends greeted them cheerfully, but Laura barely heard anything. She scanned the room until... "Laura!" Vera rushed through the small crowd, glowing in a figure-hugging burgundy dress that complemented her curves and warm complexion. Her hair was styled in a beautiful curly updo, and her smile lit up the entire room. She hugged Laura tightly. "You're here. Damn, girl, you look good." Laura smiled genuinely. For all her pain, she loved Vera deeply. "Happy birthday, V." Vera pulled back smiling, then turned and froze. Her eyes landed on Michael. "Oh," Vera said softly, surprised. "You came." Michael stepped forward with a charming smile. "Of course. Laura said you'd welcome the company." Vera blinked, surprised, amused, maybe flattered. "Well, I'm glad you're here," she said with a warm, slightly nervous smile. Laura felt her chest tighten. She knew that smile. The spark had ignited. Inside, the party was cozy and stylish. No gala, no extravagance, just friends, soft music, warm lighting, and laughter. The atmosphere felt intimate, safe, and festive. Michael seemed completely taken by the vibe. And by Vera. Laura watched quietly as they conversed. Vera laughed at something he said, touching his arm lightly, an innocent gesture yet telling. Michael leaned in a bit closer, listening intently. The exchange flowed naturally, effortlessly. A connection was forming right in front of her eyes. Laura stood by the drink table, gripping her cup while keeping her expression pleasant. She didn't want to ruin anything. She didn't want to sulk. She just wanted to breathe. "You okay?" someone asked. It was Sarah, a mutual friend of hers and Vera's. "I'm fine," Laura lied softly. "You look thoughtful," Sarah said. "It's nothing," she replied with a small smile. But Sarah followed her gaze and understood immediately. "Oh," she whispered. "Michael and Vera?" Laura inhaled sharply. "Please don't." "I'm fine." Sarah nodded sympathetically and walked away. Laura stayed rooted for a moment, bracing herself, reminding herself that she had no right to be angry. Michael had no idea how she felt. Vera had no idea what was happening inside her chest. Still, knowing didn't make the pain less sharp. An hour passed before Michael approached her again. "Hey," he said, a little breathless. "You okay? Haven't seen you much." Laura forced a bright smile. "I'm okay. Just catching up with old friends." "You sure?" he asked gently. "You feel a little distant." "I'm fine, Michael." He nodded, trusting her words. Then he added casually, "Vera is amazing. I didn't expect to enjoy talking to her this much." Her stomach dropped, but she kept her smile steady. "Yes, she is an amazing person." Michael leaned a bit closer, lowering his voice. "Do you think she'd ever, I don't know, consider going out with someone like me?" Laura felt as if the floor shifted underneath her. Someone like him? A billionaire? A charming, handsome, emotionally steady man? Why wouldn't she? Laura swallowed hard. "I think she would, yes." Michael grinned, relief and excitement flickering in his eyes. "That's good to hear." And with that, he drifted back toward the woman who had caught his attention. Laura stood still for a moment, allowing herself one silent breath, one quiet second to feel the heartbreak fully. Then she lifted her chin, straightened her shoulders, and forced herself to rejoin the celebration with genuine kindness. Because loving someone meant wanting their happiness, even when it shattered your own. By the time the party ended, Laura was exhausted, not physically but emotionally drained. Michael was the one glowing with energy. "That was fun," he said as they walked toward the car. "Yeah," Laura said softly. Michael turned to her, excitement brightening his eyes. "I'm thinking of asking Vera out. Maybe next week. I want to talk to you about it later." Her heart twisted, quiet, deep, familiar. She managed a small, supportive smile. "Of course, Michael. Whenever you're ready." "Thanks," he said warmly. "You're the best." As they drove away from Vera's home, city lights reflecting off the windshield, Laura looked out the window, hiding the tears that threatened to fall. Not because Vera had done anything wrong. Not because Michael had hurt her intentionally. But because silence, her own silence, had finally caught up with her. And for the first time, she realized that winter wasn't the only thing that made her feel cold. It was watching the man she loved walk toward another woman, while she stood still, loving him from a distance. The following Monday arrived with a quiet calmness stretching over Austin. The winter sun rose slowly, casting a pale glow across the city, soft, muted, and cold. It was the kind of morning meant for warm coffee and heavy coats, not heartbreak. Yet that was exactly what Laura carried with her as she walked into the office. She had barely slept after the party. Her mind replayed every moment. Michael's smile when he talked to Vera, the laughter they shared, the way his eyes followed her with subtle interest. And then his final words. "I'm thinking of asking Vera out." Each time she remembered, something inside her tightened. Still, she greeted the receptionist with her usual grace, took the elevator to the top floor, and stepped into their shared office with the same gentle composure she maintained every day. Michael wasn't in yet. His desk was empty, but his presence lingered in the form of the coffee mug he had forgotten to bring home. Laura sat down, inhaling deeply, trying to steady her emotions. She told herself she was fine. She'd done this before, burying feelings, putting on a brave face, being the dependable one. She thought she could continue. She thought she had enough strength. But pain had a way of growing when ignored. At 7:43 a.m., Michael walked in, humming under his breath. "Morning, partner," he greeted cheerfully. Laura forced a pleasant smile. "Good morning." He sat down and booted up his computer, tapping his fingers lightly on the desk. There was a bright, almost boyish energy around him, an energy she had never seen quite this vibrant. After a moment, he turned to her. "So," he said casually, "about Vera." Laura braced herself. "Yes, I think I want to get to know her better." His voice held a sincerity she wasn't prepared for. "We clicked. I didn't expect that." Her chest tightened, but she nodded slowly. "She's easy to like." "That's exactly it," he said, smiling. "She's open. Genuine. There's something about her confidence that I really admire." Laura looked down at her keyboard. Vera was confident, something she herself wasn't when it mattered most. Michael leaned back in his chair. "But before I do anything, I want your opinion. You two are close. Is she stable? Like emotionally? Mentally? Ready for something real?" The question stung in a way she didn't expect. "Yes," Laura said softly. "She's been through a lot, but she's strong. If she opens her heart to you, she'll mean every bit of it." Michael's smile widened. "That's good to hear." He had no idea that each word was a little knife twisting deeper. As the day progressed, Michael grew more restless, clearly eager to reach out to Vera. He texted her during a lunch break to ask if she got home safely after the party. Vera replied within seconds, and Michael laughed at whatever she sent. Laura watched the transformation in him, how his serious, business-focused demeanor softened into something lighter, more hopeful. He was falling already. Maybe he didn't know it yet. But Laura did. Around 2 p.m., Laura stepped outside for fresh air. The cold wind brushed against her cheeks, grounding her. Standing beneath the shade of the tall building, she hugged herself against the winter chill. Her phone buzzed. "Vera, hey babe. Are you free tonight?" I want to talk to you about something. Laura stared at the screen. She knew what Vera wanted to discuss. Vera, it's about Michael. Laura exhaled shakily. Of course. She typed back. Laura, yes. I'm free. Come over. Vera replied with a heart emoji. Laura leaned against the wall, closing her eyes. She needed strength. She needed to hold herself together. She needed. Everything okay? Michael's voice came from behind her. She straightened immediately. Yes. Just needed some fresh air. He looked at her closely for a moment. You sure? You look a little pale. I'm fine, she whispered. He nodded, satisfied, then shoved his hands into his pockets. I'm thinking of asking Vera out formally this week. Maybe a dinner, something simple. Laura smiled faintly. That sounds like a good idea. You think she'll say yes? Her throat tightened. Yes. She will. Thanks, he said, his grin warm. You always know how to clear my mind. She looked away quickly before her emotions betrayed her. No. He had no idea what her mind, or her heart, held. That evening, Laura sat on her couch waiting for Vera. When Vera finally arrived, she rushed in with her usual bright, infectious energy. Girl, Vera said, plopping onto the sofa. I need to tell you something. Laura pushed a smile. Tell me. Vera blushed, a soft, unmistakable shade of rosy pink. I think I like Michael. Laura's heart sank, but she kept her face calm. Oh, and I think he likes me too. Vera twirled a curl around her finger nervously. He texted me today. He's sweet. He's respectful. And honestly, I didn't expect a billionaire to be that grounded. Laura nodded slowly. He is. But, Vera added, her voice trembling slightly, before anything happens, I wanted to talk to you. Because you're my girl. My sister. I don't ever want anything to come between us. Laura swallowed hard. Nothing had ever pierced deeper. She forced a shaky smile. Nothing will come between us, V. If you two like each other, I'll support you. Vera's eyes softened with gratitude. You're the best, Laura. But Laura felt far from it. She felt like a woman watching her heart walk away. One step at a time, and having no right to call it back. The next few days moved with a slow, quiet heaviness for Laura. Winter in Austin had settled in fully. Cold mornings, pale afternoons, and evenings that crept in too early. She wrapped herself in coats and scarves, but nothing warmed the part of her heart that felt suddenly exposed. Vera and Michael were talking more now. Not officially dating yet, but the connection was unmistakable and undeniably growing. Laura saw it unfold from a painful front row seat. On Tuesday morning, she found Michael already at the office, sitting at his desk with an absent-minded smile. His coffee sat untouched. His computer screen glowed, but he wasn't typing. He was staring at his phone. Laura stepped in quietly. He looked up, startled. Oh, hey, Laura. Didn't see you come in. Morning, she said as evenly as she could. Michael cleared his throat, straightened, but the brightness in his eyes stayed. So Vera and I talked again last night. She replied, setting her bag down. She forced a supportive smile. That's good. Yeah, he said, rubbing the back of his neck, trying and failing to hide his excitement. I asked her if she'd like to get dinner sometime this week. Laura's fingers froze on her keyboard. You did. She didn't answer yet, he said quickly. She said she wanted to think about it. Laura blinked, surprised. Think about it? Michael nodded. I don't know. Maybe she's not sure if it's a good idea. Laura swallowed. Or maybe Vera was just considering how to tell Michael about her past. Or maybe she was worried about hurting Laura. Whatever the reason, Michael clearly took the hesitation to heart. I'm probably overthinking it, he said with a laugh that didn't sound entirely confident. She's just different from other women I've met. I don't want to mess it up. Laura forced her lips into a reassuring curve. You won't. He looked at her gratefully. You know, you're always the voice of reason. I don't know what I'd do without you. She looked down quickly. You'd be fine. But her chest ached with every word. Throughout the morning, Michael kept drifting into moments of distraction. Checking his phone, staring into space, smiling at nothing in particular. Laura worked silently, hiding behind spreadsheets and proposals, pretending she didn't notice. Pretending she wasn't breaking quietly. By noon, Michael finally received a message. His phone buzzed, and he snatched it faster than Laura had ever seen him move. He read it, paused. Then slowly, a smile began to spread across his face, gentle, relieved, hopeful. She said yes, he whispered, more to himself than to her. Laura's heart sank, but she forced calm. That's great, she said softly. He nodded, glowing. We're meeting Thursday evening. She suggested something low-key, which I really like. Laura nodded. Sounds perfect. Michael didn't see the strain behind her eyes. That evening, Laura returned home to a silent apartment. Winter shadows stretched across her living room, dimming the space with a quiet she wasn't prepared for. She set her bag down, hung her coat, and walked to the kitchen for water, anything to anchor herself. Her phone buzzed. Vera, hey babe, can I come over again tonight? Laura closed her eyes. She typed back, Laura, yes. Come. 20 minutes later, Vera knocked. When Laura opened the door, she found her friend bundled in a thick coat, cheeks flushed from the cold, looking both nervous and excited. Hi, Vera breathed. Come in. Vera stepped inside, rubbing her gloved hands together for warmth. Laura, I need to tell you something important. Laura nodded, bracing herself. Okay. Vera hesitated. Then she took a deep breath. Michael asked me out. Laura managed a small nod. He told me. Vera bit her lip. I said yes. Laura's heart clenched, but she kept her expression calm. I'm glad. But Vera didn't smile. Instead, she looked troubled, her eyes carrying something deeper, heavier. I need to tell you the full truth, Laura, she said quietly. Because if I'm going to accept a man like Michael into my life, I want to be honest from the beginning. Laura's breath caught. She knew what was coming. Vera sat down on the couch, hands clasped. You remember when I told you about my past? About stripping, about doing whatever I had to do to get through school. Laura nodded. Yes. I'm going to tell Michael the same thing. Everything. The truth, without holding anything back. Laura's heartbeat thudded in her chest. And I'm scared, Vera admitted softly. Not because I'm ashamed, but because I don't want him to look at me differently. I don't want him to think I'm unworthy of someone like him. Laura sat beside her, placing a supportive hand over hers. Vera, if Michael cares for you, and I truly believe he does, your past won't change that. You did what you had to do. You survived. And that strength, he'll admire it. Vera's eyes softened with emotion. You think so? I know so. Vera suddenly leaned in, wrapping her arms around her. I don't deserve a friend like you, she whispered. Laura blinked back tears. You do. You always have. They stayed like that for a moment. Laura holding her friend, hiding her own heartbreak behind comfort. Vera eventually pulled back, giving her a warm, grateful smile. Thank you, she whispered. For supporting me. For not judging me. For everything. Laura forced a small smile. Always. But deep inside, she felt the truth settle heavily. She was helping the man she loved fall deeper for someone else. And there was nothing she could do but endure it. Thursday arrived with the kind of winter crispness that made Austin feel quieter than usual. The sky was pale, the air dry and cold, and the wind carried a faint bite as if reminding everyone that warmth was something to be earned this season. Laura woke up before sunrise. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the dim glow slipping through her curtains. Today was the day Michael was taking Vera on their first date. She had known this moment would come. She had even helped push it along. But now that it was here, her chest felt tight and unsettled. She remembered something her mother used to say back in Ohio. Sometimes it hurts to love someone in silence. But silence is still love. Maybe this was her fate. To love quietly. To hurt quietly. She dressed slowly, choosing clothes without much thought, then made herself coffee she hardly tasted. When she reached the office, Michael was already there, again, with an energy too vibrant to ignore. Morning, he said brightly the moment she walked in. His happiness was unmistakable. It was in the tone of his voice, the lightness of his posture, the way he couldn't stop smiling even while pretending to answer emails. Good morning, Laura replied softly. He spun his chair slightly toward her, unable to contain himself. So, tonight's the night. She smiled, despite the heaviness inside. I know. He chuckled nervously. I tried on like 5 jackets this morning. I feel ridiculous. You like her, Laura said gently. Michael rubbed his jaw. Yeah, more than I expected to. Laura inhaled slowly. I'm happy for you, she whispered. His smile softened. Thanks, Laura. Seriously. I know I keep saying it, but your support means everything. She nodded, unable to trust her voice. She turned back to her work, pretending to focus on spreadsheets while battling the ache tightening under her ribs. Later that afternoon, Michael grew more restless. He kept checking the time, adjusting his collar, running his hands through his hair. Laura noticed all of it, every small sign of nervous excitement. At one point, he exhaled sharply. Okay, I'm going home early. I need time to get ready. Laura nodded. That's a good idea. He grabbed his coat, then paused by her desk. You're the best partner I could have asked for, he said. I hope you know that. Her heart twisted. I do. And then he was gone. The office felt painfully quiet. Laura worked late, not because she needed to, but because she didn't want to sit alone in her apartment imagining the evening unfolding between Michael and Vera. But by 7:30 p.m., her eyes blurred over the numbers on her screen, and her emotions felt too heavy to ignore. She packed her bag slowly and stepped outside. Winter air hit her immediately, cold, sharp, and grounding. Her breath puffed into tiny white clouds as she walked to her car. She drove home through quiet streets, her hands gripping the steering wheel, her mind drifting toward thoughts she did not want to acknowledge. What if Vera is the one? What if he falls completely? What if this becomes something permanent? She parked outside her apartment complex, sat in the car for a moment, and let her head fall back. She wasn't jealous of Vera, not truly. Vera deserved happiness after the life she'd endured. And Michael deserved love too. But part of Laura wondered, why couldn't she have been the one he noticed first? Meanwhile, across town, Vera stood in front of her bathroom mirror, adjusting the beige turtleneck sweater she had chosen for the evening. Winter in Austin wasn't harsh, but the nights were cold, and she wanted to dress warmly, modest, simple, elegant. She applied soft makeup, styled her curls into a loose, bouncy shape, and took one last breath. She was nervous, not because of Michael's wealth, not because he was handsome, but because this was the first man in years who made her want to be completely vulnerable. There had been men before, but none with sincerity like his. The doorbell rang. Vera's heart thudded. She walked to the door and opened it. Michael stood there in a black coat, a soft smile on his lips, and a bouquet of fresh winter lilies in his hands. For you, he said. Her eyes widened. These are beautiful. You deserve beautiful, he said softly. Vera felt heat rise to her cheeks. She stepped outside, locked her door, and they walked to his car together. Back at Laura's apartment, Laura sat curled on her couch, blanket wrapped around her shoulders. She didn't turn on the TV. She didn't scroll her phone. She just sat in the quiet, winter stillness. At 8:15 p.m., her phone buzzed. Vera. Laura's stomach tightened before she answered. Hey, she said gently. Laura. Vera's voice was quiet. I'm on the date now. I just needed a moment alone to breathe. I told Michael I was stepping out to clear my head. Laura sat up straighter. Are you okay? Yes, Vera whispered. More than okay. He's incredible. He's kind. Patient. He listens. And I feel safe. Really safe. Laura closed her eyes for a moment. I'm glad, V. But I'm scared too, Vera admitted. Because soon, I'm going to tell him everything. I don't want him to get attached to an idea of me without knowing the truth. Laura swallowed, her chest tightening. He deserves the real you. And the real you is strong. There was silence on the other end, soft, emotional. Thank you, Vera whispered. For not making me feel dirty. For never treating me like my past defines me. It doesn't, Laura said firmly. Vera exhaled shakily. Okay, I'm going back in. I'll call you tomorrow. Good luck, Laura whispered. When the call ended, Laura slowly lay back against the couch cushion, a mix of pride and heartbreak swelling inside her. She wanted Vera to be happy. She wanted Michael to be happy. She wanted their lives to blossom, even if it meant hers had to quietly fall apart. Later that night, Michael drove Vera home after dinner. The air was cold, their breaths visible in the dim glow of the streetlights. At her door, Vera paused. Michael, she said softly, there's something I want you to know. Something important. He turned toward her fully, giving her his full attention. You can tell me anything, he said. She took a shaky breath. Not tonight, she whispered. But soon, before this goes further. Michael nodded. Whenever you're ready. Her heart fluttered at the sincerity in his eyes. He leaned in only slightly, not enough to kiss, but enough to show he wanted to. Good night, Vera. Good night, Michael. She stepped inside, closed the door, and leaned against it, breathless. Across town, Michael drove home smiling. Across another part of town, Laura cried quietly into her pillow. 3 hearts. 3 truths. 3 futures unknowingly bound together. Winter had settled over Texas, but warmth was blooming somewhere. Just not for everyone. The weekend arrived quietly, Austin streets dusted with the soft remnants of winter frost. The air was crisp, and the sun barely broke through the pale gray sky. Laura arrived at Vera's apartment just before noon. Today, she was helping Vera prepare for a casual lunch gathering, a small celebration with a few friends, including Michael. Laura had spent the early morning fighting with herself. She wanted to be cheerful, light, supportive, but the ache in her chest had not eased. Seeing Michael happy with Vera, knowing she was now officially dating him, felt like a delicate wound that had yet to heal. She reminded herself again. She had chosen silence all these years. She had never confessed. This was the consequence of loving someone quietly. Vera opened the door with her usual radiant smile, dressed in a cozy cream sweater and a flowing skirt. Her curly hair framed her face, soft and elegant. "Laura, you're early," Vera exclaimed, grabbing her friend into a quick hug. "I need you. Michael's coming in a bit, and I want everything to be perfect." Laura nodded, smiling faintly. "Of course. Let's get started." They spent the morning arranging flowers, setting the table, and organizing small plates of food. Laura found herself quietly observing Vera, her energy, her confidence, the way she carried herself with grace despite her nerves. She knew that Michael's heart had already been captured by this warmth, this resilience. Laura's hands worked automatically as she arranged the plates. Her thoughts, however, were elsewhere. She pictured Michael's smile when he saw Vera, the way he leaned toward her when she spoke, the soft glow in his eyes that only appeared for her. Each memory was a delicate sting. By the time Michael arrived, the apartment was bathed in winter sunlight filtering softly through sheer curtains. He entered with his signature calm confidence, carrying a small gift for Vera, a collection of hand-picked teas and a simple handwritten note. Vera's face lit up the instant she saw him. "Michael, you didn't have to bring anything." He smiled warmly. "I wanted to." Laura watched as the exchange unfolded, feeling both pride for her friend and an ache she could not contain. Michael's gaze lingered on Vera, filled with curiosity, admiration, and something tender. Laura shifted her position, trying to hide the tightness in her chest. "Hi, Laura," Michael said, acknowledging her quietly. "You look great today." "Thanks," she replied softly, keeping her tone light. She stepped back to let them be, focusing on the details of the table setting, but she could not ignore the way Michael's attention never left Vera. Every smile he gave her, every laugh he shared, deepened the invisible chasm between Laura's unspoken feelings and the reality unfolding before her. The lunch passed in laughter and easy conversation. Friends shared stories, sipped tea, and enjoyed the winter afternoon. Michael and Vera's connection was obvious. Every glance, every small touch, every moment of shared laughter seemed to confirm the inevitable. Their hearts were aligning. Laura, ever the quiet observer, maintained her cheerful demeanor, interjecting politely when needed, and smiling as she encouraged their bond. But inside, she felt a strange mix of joy and heartbreak. After lunch, Vera cleared some plates and turned to Laura. "Thanks for helping me today. I don't know what I'd do without you." Laura smiled genuinely. "You don't have to thank me. I'm happy to help." Vera paused for a moment, studying Laura with an unreadable expression. "Laura, I know you've been quiet lately. I just want you to know, I hope you're okay. You've always been there for me, and I don't want things to be awkward between us." Laura's heart tightened, but she forced a calm smile. "I'm okay, Vera. Truly. I want you to be happy. That's all that matters." Vera reached out, giving her hand a gentle squeeze. "You're amazing, Laura. Don't forget that." Laura nodded, swallowing back the lump in her throat. Later that afternoon, Michael suggested they take a short walk through a nearby park. Vera agreed, excitement lighting her face. Laura offered to stay behind, pretending to need to organize the remaining dishes, though in truth, she welcomed a few hours alone to process her emotions. As she stacked plates and wiped counters, she reflected on the events of the past week. Michael was falling for Vera, and Vera's openness and resilience only strengthened his feelings. Laura understood that completely. She had known Vera's story long before Michael had, and she had watched Vera's strength grow through adversity. Laura's thoughts turned inward. She realized that while she loved Michael silently, she could not hold him back. She could only support the love he had found, even if it was not with her. And so Laura worked quietly, keeping her emotions under control, preparing herself for the day when she would witness their love fully bloom, while remaining the steady friend who had always been by their side. The winter sun began to lower toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the apartment. Laura glanced out the window, watching Michael and Vera walk hand in hand toward the park. Her chest tightened, but she straightened her shoulders, lifting her chin. She had chosen this path of silent love, and she would walk it with dignity. But deep down, she wondered how long her heart could remain silent before it demanded to be heard. The park was quiet that afternoon, the winter sun hanging low and casting long shadows across the path. Michael walked beside Vera, a hand casually brushing against hers, lingering just enough to create sparks neither wanted to ignore. Her laughter carried lightly through the crisp air, warm against the chill. Michael smiled, his eyes never leaving her face. I wasn't expecting to enjoy this so much. I thought, that dating would feel awkward, stiff. Vera shook her head, tucking a curl behind her ear. With you? Never awkward. I feel like I can just be me. He nodded slowly, the smile softening into something more thoughtful. That's what I like about you. No pretenses. No games. Just you. Vera's cheeks warmed. She didn't respond immediately, letting the silence speak between them. For Michael, silence was rare. He was usually full of energy, conversation, and movement, but now it was calm, comfortable, and intimate. Across town, Laura sat by her apartment window, watching the park where they had gone. She could see Michael's familiar frame beside Vera's, how naturally he leaned toward her. Her heart ached in the cold winter air, but she forced herself to stay composed. She whispered under her breath, "Be happy, just be happy." Michael reached for Vera's hand, gently holding it. "I'm curious about you," he said softly. "Everything. Your life, your dreams, even the struggles you've had." Vera's breath caught slightly, and she tightened her grip on his hand. "You really want to know?" "I do," he said, looking at her with a sincerity that made her heart flutter. "Nothing hidden. Nothing left unsaid." Vera nodded, biting her lip. "I've had to survive a lot. I worked as a stripper for a while during school. I did whatever I had to do to support myself." Michael's eyes didn't waver. He simply squeezed her hand. "That doesn't change anything. It doesn't make me see you any differently. It makes me respect you even more. You're strong. Brave. You did what you had to do." Vera exhaled, a mix of relief and disbelief flooding through her. "You're not judging me?" "Never," Michael said, his voice firm. "Everyone has a past. It's how you move forward that matters. And you've moved forward with courage." For the first time, Vera felt completely safe to be herself. And as they walked hand in hand, she realized she had never been more certain of her feelings. Meanwhile, Laura continued her quiet vigil from afar. She had spent the afternoon reflecting, her mind a whirlpool of emotions. Seeing Michael's unwavering attention on Vera, hearing their laughter from blocks away. It hurt, yes, but it also filled her with a strange sense of pride. Pride that her friend had found someone who truly valued her. Pride that Michael's heart had found someone worthy of it. And yet, deep inside, there was the quiet ache of her own unspoken love, a secret she had carried for years. It pressed against her chest, a weight she could neither discard nor ignore. She leaned against the window, wrapping her arms around herself. "It's okay," she whispered. "I can survive this. I will survive this." But even as she said it, she knew that surviving silent love was one thing. Watching it grow between the two people she cared about most? That was something entirely different. After the walk, Michael and Vera returned to her apartment. The air between them was warm and charged, a gentle electricity that made every small touch and glance feel significant. They sat on her couch, sipping tea, talking quietly about everything and nothing. Michael reached over, brushing a strand of hair from Vera's face. "I like you," he said simply. "More than I expected. More than I can explain." Vera's eyes softened, tears threatening to spill. "I like you too," she whispered. At that moment, Laura's voice echoed in her mind. "I want you to be happy." She had given her blessings silently, without a word, without confrontation. And now, seeing them together, she realized that love sometimes meant stepping aside. But as she sat alone, she couldn't help the quiet, persistent hope in her heart that one day, maybe someone would love her as deeply as she had loved in silence. By evening, Michael left Vera's apartment with a soft promise. "Tomorrow, I want to see you again. Just us." Vera smiled, her heart full. "I'll be here." And as the door closed behind him, she sank onto the couch, holding her hands to her chest, thinking of Laura. "I hope she's okay," Vera whispered. Far away, Laura sat curled in her own apartment, staring at the pale winter sky, breathing deeply. She was okay, she told herself again. She would survive. She would remain the friend, the confidant, the silent guardian of their happiness. Winter in Austin stretched on. The air was still cold, the streets quiet. And in that silence, three hearts moved, intertwined, delicate, and quietly shifting toward the inevitable. The following morning, Laura arrived at the office earlier than usual. The city streets were quiet, the winter chill sharp against her cheeks. She walked into their shared office, coffee in hand, trying to steady herself. She had slept little, and her dreams had been filled with Michael's laughter, Vera's soft voice, and the painful contrast between her own silent heart and the happiness she watched unfold. Michael was already there, sitting at his desk, phone in hand, tapping it lightly. He looked up as she entered, smiling immediately. "Good morning," he said brightly. "Did you sleep well?" Laura forced a smile. "As well as I could." He nodded, not pressing further. Instead, he leaned back in his chair and let a comfortable silence settle between them. Laura busied herself with emails and reports, her eyes occasionally flicking toward him, noting the relaxed energy that Vera seemed to inspire in him. By mid-morning, Michael's excitement became contagious. He leaned toward Laura, voice lowered conspiratorially. "So, Vera and I are planning to go hiking this weekend," he said, almost bursting with enthusiasm. "I thought it'd be a fun way to spend some time outdoors, away from the city." Laura's chest tightened, but she nodded. "That sounds nice." He smiled, oblivious to the way her heart clenched. "I think she'll love it. She loves nature, keeps her grounded. And I want to learn everything about her, you know?" Laura looked down at her keyboard, keeping her composure. "You will," she said softly. He grinned, clearly unaware of the silent ache his words caused. "Thanks, Laura. You always know how to calm me." She forced herself to return his smile. "That's what partners are for." Later that afternoon, Vera arrived at Laura's office. She was radiant, her cheeks flushed from the cold winter air, her curls bouncing as she moved. Laura felt the familiar pang in her chest, but greeted her friend warmly. "Hey," Vera said, plopping into the chair beside her. "Michael told me about the hiking idea. He's so excited." Laura nodded, forcing a casual tone. "He seems very happy." "I know," Vera said, smiling. "And I want him to be. I really do. But," she hesitated, her gaze dropping slightly, "I also want to make sure I'm ready to be honest with him about everything. My past. I need to tell him fully." Laura placed a comforting hand over hers. "You will. And it will only make him respect you more. You've been through so much, Vera. You're strong." Vera looked at her with gratitude, a softness in her eyes that made Laura's heart ache further. "Thank you for being here. For understanding. For never making me feel judged." Laura smiled faintly, squeezing her hand. "Always. That won't change." By late afternoon, Michael arrived to pick up Vera. Laura watched from her desk as he opened the door for her, holding it with that effortless charm she had always loved. He greeted her with warmth and attention, completely engrossed in Vera's presence. Laura felt the ache in her chest deepen, but pushed it aside. She stood quietly, watching as the couple stepped out into the crisp winter air, hand in hand, their laughter floating back toward her office. She whispered under her breath, "Be happy." "That's all I can do." After they left, Laura sat at her desk in the quiet office, her thoughts drifting. She reflected on her own feelings, silent, unspoken, and unwavering for years. She realized that supporting Vera and Michael's happiness meant she would always play a secondary role in their lives. But as much as it hurt, Laura also felt a strange pride. She had chosen this path willingly, proving to herself that love could be selfless, even when it pained her. Yet deep down, a quiet question lingered. How long can my heart remain silent before it demands to be heard? The winter sun lowered outside, casting long shadows across the office floor. Laura straightened in her chair, taking a deep breath. She had survived heartbreak before, and she would survive it again. But somewhere deep inside, she knew this journey of love, loyalty, and self-sacrifice was far from over. The morning sun in Austin was pale and weak, slipping between the buildings and casting long, frosty shadows over the city streets. Laura arrived at the office earlier than usual, carrying her coffee in a thermos and a sense of quiet resolve. Today was different, she could feel it. Something in the air suggested change, though she couldn't yet name it. Michael was already at his desk, typing away with focused energy. He looked up as she walked in, and his smile warmed the cold office. "Morning, Laura," he greeted cheerfully. "I didn't expect to see you this early." "Good morning," Laura replied softly, masking the flutter of nerves in her chest. He leaned back, stretching, and glanced at his phone. "Vera texted me last night. She said she's free this afternoon. I think we're finally going to have some real, uninterrupted time together." Laura nodded, forcing a small, supportive smile. "That sounds nice." Michael's eyes lingered on her for a moment, sensing something beneath her calm exterior, but he said nothing. He trusted her, as he always had, and that trust had become both a comfort and a quiet torment for Laura. By mid-morning, Vera arrived at the office, radiant and dressed in a cozy winter sweater with dark jeans. She carried a small notebook in her hand, full of sketches and ideas she had been working on. "Laura," Vera exclaimed, rushing over. "I need your opinion on these for a project I'm planning with Michael. He wants my input, but I want you to be the first to see them." Laura took the notebook and glanced through the pages. Each sketch was full of detail, care, and imagination. She smiled genuinely. "These are amazing, Vera. Michael is lucky to have someone so creative and thoughtful on his team." Vera blushed softly. "Thanks. But I want him to know that I'm serious about our work, and about us. I want him to see the real me." Laura's chest tightened at the words. She understood that completely. Vera had always been brave, honest, and strong. And now, Michael's love for her only strengthened that courage. "You will," Laura said softly. "He'll see everything, and he'll love you for it." Vera's eyes softened with gratitude. "Thank you, Laura. I don't know what I'd do without you." Laura smiled faintly, hiding the ache that settled deeper in her chest. "You'll always have me, Vera. Always." The afternoon passed with quiet tension. Michael and Vera had arranged to meet later for a private walk along the riverfront, something simple and intimate. Laura helped Vera organize her bag, make sure she had gloves, a scarf, and a notebook for sketches. When the time came for Michael to pick her up, Laura escorted Vera to the door. Michael was already waiting, looking calm, confident, but with a brightness in his eyes reserved only for Vera. He greeted her warmly, offering his arm. "Ready?" Vera took it, her smile radiant. "Yes. Let's go." Laura stepped back, watching them leave. Her heart ached, but she remained composed. She whispered to herself, "Be happy. That's all I can do." And yet, as the door closed behind them, Laura felt the weight of her own unspoken love pressing harder than ever. By evening, Michael and Vera had returned from the walk. The winter air was crisp, but their faces glowed with warmth. They had shared stories, dreams, and laughter, and for the first time, Vera had revealed a little more of her past. Michael listened attentively, his eyes soft and unwavering. "Vera, your past doesn't change how I feel about you. It only makes me admire you more. You're brave, honest, and strong. And I'm lucky to have you in my life." Vera's lips trembled with emotion. "Thank you for understanding me. For seeing me, not my past." Michael reached for her hand, holding it gently. "I don't just see you, Vera. I see everything about you. And I want us together. Completely. Across town, Laura sat in her apartment, sipping tea by the window. The city lights reflected in her eyes as she thought of the couple she had silently nurtured and supported. She wanted to be happy for them. She truly did. But the ache in her heart was unbearable. How much longer can I stay silent? She wondered. How long can I watch the person I love give his heart to someone else and do nothing? Winter stretched on outside, cold and unforgiving, but inside Laura, emotions burned like a quiet fire. She had always been the silent guardian of their happiness. But now, the fire of her own heart whispered, softly, urgently, that perhaps silence was no longer enough. The next morning, Laura arrived at the office with a quiet determination. Winter sunlight filtered through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the floor. She had spent the night wrestling with her thoughts, wondering how long she could continue hiding her feelings, watching Michael and Vera grow closer while remaining silent. Michael was already there, standing at the window with a coffee mug in hand. When he turned and saw Laura, his face lit up with that easy smile she had always loved. "Morning, Laura," he said cheerfully. "You're early today." "Morning," she replied softly, forcing composure. He moved to his desk, setting down his mug. "So, Vera and I were talking last night. We're thinking of planning a small weekend getaway. Just the two of us." She mentioned she's never been to the hill country in winter. Thought it'd be nice. Laura's chest tightened. She nodded slowly. "That sounds wonderful." Michael's eyes lingered on her for a moment. He noticed a faint tension but didn't question it. He had always trusted Laura, and she had always been the quiet, strong presence in his life, the one who kept everything balanced. Later that afternoon, Vera arrived at the office, a bundle of energy despite the chill outside. She carried a small sketchbook and a few notes for a new project she had been excited to share with Michael. "Laura," she exclaimed, "I can't wait for you to see this. I need your opinion before Michael does." Laura took the sketchbook, smiling faintly. Her hands trembled slightly as she flipped through the pages. Vera's creativity and dedication never ceased to amaze her. "They're fantastic," Laura said sincerely. "Michael will love them. You've put so much thought into this." Vera looked at her with a soft, almost vulnerable smile. "Thanks. I want him to see the real me. Everything about me." Laura's heart ached. She understood completely. She had known Vera's story long before Michael had, and now watching Vera share it with him brought a complex mix of pride, admiration, and sorrow. "You'll show him, Vera," Laura said gently. "He'll appreciate every part of you." Vera squeezed Laura's hand. "Thank you for everything. For being here. For understanding." Laura forced a smile, hiding the ache behind it. "Always. That won't change." By late afternoon, Michael arrived to pick Vera up. Laura helped her friend organize her things, making sure she had gloves, a scarf, and her sketchbook safely tucked away. When Michael appeared in the doorway, he held it open for Vera, his smile warm and inviting. "Ready?" he asked. Vera took his arm. "Yes. Let's go." Laura stepped back, watching as they left. The winter light caught Michael's hair, the sparkle in Vera's eyes, the way their hands intertwined effortlessly. Her chest ached, but she whispered to herself, "Be happy, that's all I can do." Once they were gone, Laura returned to her desk, staring out the window at the quiet streets. Her thoughts wandered to the years she had spent loving Michael silently, the moments she had hoped he would notice her, the countless times she had chosen to support him instead of confronting her feelings. She realized something painful yet clear. Michael and Vera's love was growing, stronger, deeper, and inevitable. And Laura could no longer deny the truth within herself. She had reached the point where silence might no longer be enough. By evening, Laura sat in her apartment, curled in a blanket by the window. She could feel the weight of the past weeks pressing down on her. Michael and Vera were out, enjoying their time together, unaware of the silent storm in her heart. She whispered into the quiet winter night, "How long can I keep this in, before it breaks me?" The room was still. The city outside glimmered softly under streetlights, and for the first time, Laura allowed herself to acknowledge the truth she had buried for so long. She loved Michael, fully, deeply, completely. And now, as winter in Austin stretched on, she understood that the choices she made in the coming days would define everything: friendship, love, and the fragile balance between them. The following morning, Austin's winter sun filtered weakly through the tall office windows, casting long, pale shadows across the floor. Laura arrived at the office with quiet resolve, her mind heavy but determined. Today, she had made a decision. She could no longer ignore the storm inside her heart. Michael was already there, at his desk, typing away with that familiar focus that had always drawn her in. When he looked up and saw her, his smile brightened the room. "Morning, Laura," he said cheerfully. "How's my favorite partner today?" Laura returned a small, composed smile. "Morning, Michael. I'm well." Her voice betrayed nothing, but inside, her chest was tight. He leaned back in his chair, studying her briefly, sensing some hidden tension. "You've been quiet lately. Is everything okay?" Laura paused. Her hands gripped the edge of her desk, and for the first time in years, she let herself consider speaking the truth. Not to complain, not to beg, but simply to let him know how she felt. Michael," she began, her voice soft but steady. "There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you a long time ago." Michael's brow furrowed slightly, concern touching his eyes. "Okay, what is it?" Laura took a deep breath, feeling the winter sunlight streaming over her shoulder, grounding her. "I've loved you for years. Quietly. Silently. I never said anything because I didn't want to risk what we had, but I can't stay silent anymore." Michael blinked, caught off guard. For the first time, the confident, almost untouchable billionaire seemed momentarily vulnerable. "Laura, he began, but she raised her hand gently, stopping him. "You don't have to say anything," she whispered. "I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know. Because it's the truth, and I can't keep it inside any longer." The office was quiet. Even the hum of computers seemed to pause, the pale winter light heavy with unspoken words. Michael sat back, absorbing her confession. His mind raced, not with anger or confusion, but with realization. Laura continued, her voice trembling slightly. "I see how happy you are with Vera, and I want that for you. I truly do. But I needed to be honest. That's all." Michael's expression softened, and he reached across his desk, placing a hand over hers. "Laura, you've always been honest with me, always been there. And I didn't know. I never realized how deeply you felt. I wish I had." Laura looked down, letting a single tear slip. "It doesn't matter now. She makes you happy. That's what matters. Always." Michael squeezed her hand gently. "You've been my rock for so long. I don't know what I would do without you." Laura forced a smile, wiping her tears. "And you'll never have to. I'll always be here, just not in the way my heart wishes." Later that afternoon, Vera arrived at the office, radiant as ever, sketchbook in hand. She noticed the faint redness in Laura's eyes and frowned. "Laura, are you okay?" Vera asked softly. Laura gave a small, reassuring smile. "I'm fine. Really. Just a little tired." Vera hesitated, then reached out to squeeze her friend's hand. "I'm so glad you're here for us, Laura. I don't know what I'd do without you." Laura nodded, her chest heavy but resolute. "You'll always have me, Vera. Always." Across the office, Michael watched silently, understanding the depth of what had been shared. He realized that the woman who had loved him quietly, so selflessly, was not diminished by her sacrifice. In fact, her honesty only deepened his respect, his admiration, and his gratitude. That evening, Laura returned to her apartment. The winter air was cold and crisp, but for the first time, she felt a strange lightness amidst the ache. She had spoken the truth, freed her heart, and still remained the friend, confidant, and guardian of the happiness she had always sought for Michael and Vera. She sat by her window, looking out at the city lights reflecting off the frost. She whispered into the quiet, "I can survive this. I will survive this." Winter in Austin stretched on, cold and clear, but inside Laura, something had shifted. The ache of unspoken love had been acknowledged, her heart's truth unveiled. And though the path forward would be bittersweet, she knew she had acted with courage, dignity, and honesty. Outside, Michael and Vera's laughter echoed faintly in her memory, a reminder that love, honest, brave, and true, was always worth it, even if it came at a personal cost. And for Laura, that was enough. How Laura forgave herself after she heard the news of Michael's proposal and accepted to become Vera's chief bridesmaid was a journey of quiet courage. She had spent years silently loving Michael, but in that moment, she realized that love wasn't about possession. It was about letting go and celebrating the happiness of the people she cared about most. On the morning of the wedding, Laura stood in the bridal suite, adjusting Vera's veil and smoothing the delicate folds of her gown. The winter sunlight filtered softly through the tall windows, casting a warm glow on the room. She looked at Vera, radiant and smiling, and felt a swell of pride and affection. "You look perfect," Laura whispered, fastening the last button of Vera's dress. Vera turned to her, eyes shimmering with gratitude. "Laura, I couldn't have done this without you. You've always been my rock, my guide, my sister. Thank you for being here, for everything." Laura smiled, a soft ache in her chest that had long ago transformed into quiet strength. "You deserve all of this and more. He makes you happy. That's what matters." The ceremony was held in a small, elegant chapel in Austin. Snow-white winter light poured through the stained glass, illuminating the faces of their friends and family. Laura stood at the front as Vera's chief bridesmaid, heart steady but full of emotion, watching as Michael approached the altar. His eyes met hers for a brief, silent acknowledgement, a shared understanding that transcended words. Vera arrived, graceful and glowing, her eyes locked on Michael. Every step she took was confident, every smile genuine. Laura's chest tightened, but she held herself upright. She had chosen to support their love, and in that choice she found peace. As Michael took Vera's hands, he spoke his vows with tenderness, sincerity, and joy. Vera responded with equal honesty and warmth. And when the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Michael leaned in and kissed Vera softly, their love unmistakable and unshakable. Laura clapped with genuine happiness, a small tear sliding down her cheek. She whispered under her breath, "Be happy, both of you deserve this." Later, at the reception in a cozy Austin hall, Michael and Vera shared their first dance. Laura watched them from a distance, smiling as they moved together effortlessly, laughter and love radiating from them. Michael approached her quietly afterward, offering a hand in his signature playful manner. "May I have this dance?" he asked softly. Laura laughed and accepted. For a few moments they danced, not as lovers but as lifelong friends, bound by years of trust, understanding, and unspoken devotion. "You've always been remarkable," Michael whispered, holding her close. "I hope you know how much I value you." Laura smiled, feeling warmth fill her chest. "I know, and I'll always be here for both of you." As the evening wound down, Laura stepped outside onto the terrace. The winter air was crisp, the city lights reflecting softly on the frost-covered streets. She breathed deeply, feeling the quiet peace she had longed for. She had spoken her truth, forgiven herself, and stood proudly by the people she loved most. Vera and Michael appeared moments later, hand in hand. Vera looked at Laura, tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said simply. "For what?" Laura asked, smiling. "For loving him, for loving me, for being you," Vera replied. Michael nodded in agreement. "We couldn't have done this without you." Laura laughed softly, feeling a lightness she hadn't known in years. "Then it was worth it," she said. And in that moment, three hearts stood together, connected not just by love, but by loyalty, friendship, and the courage to embrace joy even at the cost of personal longing. Winter in Austin faded, and with it, Laura discovered a new beginning. Her heart, though once quiet and aching, was open now, ready for the future, filled with the knowledge that love, in all its forms, was always worth believing in. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to Boundless Echoes for more interesting stories. We really appreciate your support. Comment where you are watching from, so we can give you a shout out. See you in our next video.